I move to adjourn.
Second? I'll second. Thank you.
We're doing this again to reaffirm the comprehensive plan from 2005 and again it was 1968. The town has not ever contemplated heavy industry, and the extraction and exploration of gas is unquestionably a heavy industry. With the amount of truck traffic, heavy equipment, the types of emissions from their equipment, the compressors, just the amount of activity by people on the sites is something that had been considered in the prior adoption of the zoning. I think that a lot of the comments and that have come in also go towards continuing the prohibition of heavy industry in the town and the zoning rewrite that's going on now, because that was also put together in support of the 2005 comprehensive plan. And in that we're making land use decisions, not regulating an industry per se.
I couldn't agree with Jason more about representing the entire town. Sometimes we're not able to do things that the majority wishes for. This time we are able to do it. I think that's all I have to say. I've said an awful lot over the past few weeks. This isn't the end of it. We won't stop working on it. There are a number of more steps and studies we need to do and review, and keep doing that. Anybody else?
I'll read what I wrote. It is my belief the processes involved with natural gas exploration and extraction via slickwater hydrofracking are an imminent and irreparable threat to the present and future citizens of the town of Dryden, as well as the towns and adjacent communities, environment, natural resources, and way of life. Anyways, further on, and really, I more or less said I wholeheartedly am behind what we are doing here tonight. The reasoning for that is it's part of a little bit of my heritage is thinking about N7, the next 7 generations, and what we would provide for those 7 generations. And every decision we make will have an impact. And so my decision is to try to keep everything the way it is: clean air, clean water, everything that can be sustained and viable for our children's children.
I can't even picture the 7th generation, but I've practiced that since you've talked about it.
But that was the basis for my decision.
I think one reason for clarifying it this way at the moment is to make it clear that it's not that we just overlooked gas drilling. We knew then, as we do now, that it's an industrial use that's not suitable for the town of Dryden. We don't now permit, as far as I know, space shuttle launching pads.
We don't allow refineries.
And they're pretty much. I'm sorry.
We don't allow refineries or processing.
But the idea of if it's not permitted, it's prohibited is important, because there are things we probably haven't thought of yet. There are technologies that haven't been invented yet that we don't allow. And in case we don't get around to rewriting our zoning every time one is developed and we want to not allow it, that's why we have, if it's not permitted, it is prohibited zoning.
And then and that's when wants to come and do something that's not, will then come usually I would think they would come to the board and say, we have this great idea.
Would you amend your zoning to permit it?
Right, and that's also something that commonly happens across the state, where the town is zoning, and like Malin has said in the past, you can't think of everything. And that's the purpose of that section. And it's so that you slow things down and take time to analyze what this new use would be and how it will affect the entire town, and how, if there are concerns, they can be mitigated, because if you want to allow it, you may want to allow it under certain conditions.
In quoting Maitland, he's had some good things, but one of the things that I want to quote was he's used it to me a couple of times, is forever is an awful long time.
Right.
And zoning isn't forever. It's subject to change on a regular basis for anybody that's being proactive about this. And what goes in place now in the future is always subject to change. And I think a proactive board needs to look at it that way. And I think you hit it on the head as far as the requirement. We need to look at it. Some things that I wanted to just touch on really briefly, and I really will try on this one, is, first of all, is the question of taking our time. I've been living with this for 2 years. It's been there with me day in and day out. I went into this with a balanced approach. I'm not jaded by money, by lobbyists, by anything other than what I feel that what I was voted into, and that's to represent the people of the town of Dryden. Sometimes who that is, I mean, I know an amount, but as far as who those people are, sometimes they're hard to, whether it's the vocal minority, the vocal majority. All I know is something that that my mom is gone now, but if she were here, she was a simple person with a lot of common sense, and she would have told me to make my decision based on what was right. My decision tonight is based on what's right. And again, there's no jadedness about this. I went into this looking at every way possible to take care of everybody in the town of Dryden. But as we all know, somebody will always walk away from the table unhappy. And so that's what's going to happen. I sleep well at night knowing that I have used common sense approach to this. I've read, for anybody that knows me, I'm a voracious reader. I've listened, I've looked, I've read, observed endless topics about this subject. But this is the bottom line for me. And people have heard this before. I've lived here my whole life. I own 2 acres in the town of Dryden, plus I own a burial plot. So for whenever my final time comes, I will be in Dryden forever. And that I don't forget. And with that, I look at it, and I went through, I looked at the middle of the road, I understood, I listened to a lot of people that I respect, but the decision is why I was elected, and I look forward to being able to cast my vote, because the town of Dryden, in my estimation, is not an acceptable casualty to New York State's financial woes. The need to plug financial faults at the state level doesn't preclude the town of Dryden being protected, just like New York City does, like New York City is in Skinny Atlas. I have a well, it's not filtered. Who will protect me? And I looked at it because I want to be able to help. I want this place to be as prosperous as possible, and I put 10 years of my current time on this town board, and I look forward to the final 2 more that I will be on here. I want this place to be prosperous, but I also want to respect landowners' rights on both sides of this. So what I would say is that this isn't the end, like you said, Marianne. It's only the beginning. I will look forward to as many opportunities as possible to listen to approaches that might be acceptable to the town of Dryden. But at this point, I'm firmly behind the way that I will vote tonight. And with that, that's basically all I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And that reminded me of a comment from Madeline earlier today that, in line with the first step idea, that we feel this is a way of defining where we are now, to make it clear. You have to know where you are before you can exactly figure out where you're going and how to get there. So this was just clarifying. This is really I want to say thanks again to the board members for spending so much time learning as much as they as well have about this, and spending so much time listening to the residents. And special thanks to residents. I think every single resident I've heard from, or everybody who's expressed opinions on all sides. Thanks for providing us with a ton of information, and for helping and for encouraging us to move one way or the other. I think we will come to agree that this was the right decision tonight.
Okay, you must be like ecstatic tonight.
Well, yeah, it's been a lot of work, and I not only have I personally done some work, but there have been a lot of people that have put a whole lot more work into this. Hillary and Marie and Martha Ferger, and so I think this is just amazing that we've gotten this far. A year ago or so, when I first started hearing about all of the stuff about hydrofracking, and we signed a gas lease several years ago, and now really regret it. And so I'm ecstatic that the grassroots, this is democracy in action. So, and that is really gratifying to see.
And I live in the town of Dryden, and for 2.5 years, every night, it's been a struggle to go to sleep, but tonight I will sleep a lot easier. And I would really like people to know that America is being killed from the inside out by these billionaire corporations developing methane gas. This is not the place for developing methane gas, and I want the town board to know that they showed a lot of courage tonight, a lot of bravery, and they did what the public wanted, was for protection. We need protection, and we got it tonight, and I really appreciate them.
Yes, it's a step along the way. We have a long ways to go yet, but it's a real victory, and I think what the board's work tonight showed was that this is not a Democratic and Republican issue. This is not a political issue. This is an issue for the land, and both Republicans and Democrats came through tonight to say that they cared about preserving the character of Dryden for generations, and that was very heartfelt, and I really appreciate their work. I live in Freeville, so it could make a big difference to me if drilling came, and I think one of the things we need to think about is we need to all use less energy so that these dangerous forms of extraction of fuel aren't necessary. We need to reduce our energy use so that we can not need as much energy. And so I think it's two sides of a coin. And I'm happy that we passed it tonight, that we passed the ban.
There's been a lot of discussion by a lot of very talented attorneys and experts and planners over the last couple of years on what language is usable. And it's been interesting to watch. Over about the last 6 months, the discussion shifted from people being afraid to actually name gas drilling in their ordinances and actions to feeling much more confident about the power of local government to zone specifically such noxious heavy industrial uses as gas drilling. And so I'm personally glad that they took the path they did, avoided these words as though they were noxious for a while or dangerous, and have now decided that they can talk about things explicitly and name it and not be afraid of it.
Well, it's fantastic. It's very courageous what they've done. It didn't come easy, as one of the councilmen said, and it's very historic, and it was the right thing to do and an important thing to do. The thing that I'm frustrated with as someone who lives in the city of Ithaca is that the city of Ithaca needs to ban it as well. The fact that they're not leased doesn't excuse them from not banning it. Our water comes from the town of Caroline. So that, for one thing, and then the water treatment plant, by banning it, we're also saying we don't want the hydrofracking fluids to come through the water treatment plant. And basically, lastly, it's a symbolic gesture. Yes, symbolism is very important because we need to stick together and we need to support each other, and we all need to be unified. And that's something we have to take seriously and do.